Hey friends, it's Michelle and welcome back. Today on the show, we're talking about how pain can become your friend. Joining us today is Tatiana Miller, who is a clinical health and wellness counselor and corporate consultant, named one of the top most inspiring female leaders of 2022 by IRE Publications and one of the top 10 executive coaches in Texas in 2024. Tatiana has developed a program to integrate Eastern and Western medicine while establishing the nation's first integrative medicine program while being part of the neurology pain team. Her passion is to teach others to cultivate and strengthen the connection between mind, body, and spirit. In this interview, you're going to hear how Tatiana ended up paralyzed and ended up walking again after doctors told her that she never would be able to. All of the show notes for today's conversations right on your podcast player or over at thegoodlifecoach.com with an invitation to join my newsletter list, which I'd love to have you be a part of, as well as to subscribe to my new YouTube channel. So this season's episodes are getting up on YouTube and we're going back and getting all the previous ones up eventually, but so much great content there. And for those of you who like to watch the interviews, now you're able to do so. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, my friends, on that note, let's get right into the show. Here we go. Tatiana, if I were to meet you at a networking event and I was like, oh, what do you do? How do you usually respond to that?
I usually laugh. I'm like, on what day? I've been trying to package that myself because it is a question that people often, as an initial meeting they ask, and I think the answer has many layers for many of us, right? Most of us, when we're asked what we do, we immediately go to our job title or the actual description of our day-to-day actions. But for me, my brain immediately goes to what I do is try to help others not get stuck in their pain. And that has been consistently with me since I was probably, 19 when I started teaching yoga. It's just sort of what I always have been going back to in my life, no matter my job, right? No matter my title, no matter the company I was with, or whether I was already independent, that's just what I do.
I love it. That's at the heart of it. And the reason I asked was just because
Right.
you have experience in so many areas, like, your work incorporates psychology and kinesiology and neurology and, all these different modalities. And I was like, I'm curious, like how you would,
Yeah, so
answer that. Yeah.
I think that's just my life journey has given me. So, for example, when I was young, like many people, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to study. I just knew that like you have to declare a major. So I was like, I love people. I love connecting with people. I'm going to do PR. So I did communications for my first degree. And then, at the same time, I was already studying yoga and meditation and holistic modalities. So I continued to do that, certifications and trainings. And slowly I became a yoga therapist. And then I found, okay, what I really love to do is actually help people heal physically, spiritually, emotionally. So then I went back to school and I got, my graduate degree in psychology. And then I also went back to school and got my I guess the highest degree you can get in holistic medicine, which they call a doctorate, but not all states in the US, it's not legal to like use that title or use it depending on the state you're in. So, it's a holistic way of helping people, in my opinion. One is knowing how to talk with them and connect with them. Another is knowing how your brain and instincts and whole psychology works. And then the other one is knowing like how does all your thoughts and your emotions affect your physical body, and how does then turn into your thoughts, your emotions, your physical health into your well-being as a whole. So my approach is always the whole person and the whole well-being, right? Those 8 dimensions that make us who we are. Half of that is our internal self, and then the other part is how we relate to the outside world. And So that's why I say, there's so many layers to it, because in different instances in my day or in my life, I might be doing different things with different clients. And I think that's part of what I love about kind of what I've created, my company and my mission to be. It's that it's not always the same, right? Because I think too, what has happened is that we all want to box ourselves in or get like these quick solutions, and we forget that we are there's not one size fits all. And there's certainly not one size fits all for how my career has gone. Yeah.
Which is perfect. My audience is midlife women. And, the invitation is always to be coming back to yourself. And whether
Yeah.
you've had a career, or you stopped to have kids, or it's a combination, you're working part time, I feel like midlife is a perfect time to re-examine and remember like the heart of who you are and start incorporating that, whether that's just taking a class, like a painting class, because you realize you love doing that, or you have a creative desire that you've never sort of fulfilled, or you want to go full on and start a company, whatever that looks like. So I love that you've got this path where you've really been listening to the different parts of yourself and what lights you up and sort of what links it. But I understand that you also had a terrible injury that left you paralyzed, which I imagine informed your path. And I don't know if that's also what led you into the holistic field, because the
It was
doctors that
actually before. It
it
was before.
was. Was there
Yeah.
another
So
reason health wise, though? I'm curious
yeah.
because it seems like most doctors I interviewed who've done the holistic training, there was a health reason.
Yeah, so it really started when I was a teenager, and I kept having these well, now we know they're flare-ups, but at the time it was like, oh, you have the flu, or oh, we're not sure. Or one time when I was a teenager, one doctor told me, this sure is sounds like lupus, but there's no way to really know if you have lupus or not. And it kind of got dismissed. And then now we know that it is, but I didn't know, and this is the typical story, right, of people with autoimmune for probably 15 years what it was. I just kept having all of these symptoms. And my thing was, um, when I started college and I started continuing to get these flare ups and my hormones started to change, I started getting bounced around from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and they all would give me different prescriptions that would cause other effects. So then I had more pills, and I had this case that was like this big of different medicines I was taking. And um, I thought there has to be another way. And that's what led me to start studying holistic medicine in my 20s. And my accident wasn't till my 30s. So I also think back to what you were saying in your previous question, that in our midlife, I know we talked about before we started the interview, I did it this morning. It's important for us to reflect on, maybe the person that I was in my 30s is no longer who I am. We got to shed it, right? Like, let it go. And that's okay, because that person led you to where you are now. And I think for me, it was wanting to study holistic medicine to find another way for lupus. And then that unknowingly prepared me for getting paralyzed and being told by 4 Western doctors, you're never going to walk again. They looked at my husband and they were like, you better start building a ramp and get used to it. But it
Oh,
was that woman in her, 20s that prepared me to look them in the eye and go, absolutely not. Like, I don't accept what you're saying.
oh, I just got goosebumps like head to toe. And I don't know why. It's just interesting. There was like something really powerful about like the conviction of where you were coming from there. So fast forward though, how old were you and what happened?
So I want to go back,
Yes, please.
for people to know, because I really try to emphasize this with my students and people I work with, is like, the choices you make in your young adulthood are going to really, really bite your ass in midlife. Like, they are good or bad choices, right? They're going to show up and they're going to be like, this is what you created. And I ignored some things that I shouldn't have ignored, that
Okay.
would have really prevented a lot of heartache for me and my family. And that is
Mm,
that um, after I had my first son, which was in my mid 20s, I started noticing extreme back pain. Like, I
mm,
mean, not normal little bit of pain that most Americans have, but like debilitating back pain. And I ignored it because I was a young mom, because I was busy, because that's what we do, right? We
Yep.
ignore our bodies and we ignore
Yes.
our symptoms.
Hmm.
And then, years went by. I am 29. I get pregnant with my second son, and the pain is so bad that I can barely make it through my pregnancy.
Wow.
And I, again, ignored it. Had my second son, was busy being a mom. I would go to bed at night and cry. And my husband actually is the one that said, this has to stop. Like, you cannot continue to live with this amount of pain. So my point is, because so many women I know do it, and men too,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
We
Push
leave
through.
and sacrifice
Hmm.
parts of ourselves in order to make our life more convenient, or
Yeah.
our partner's life,
We
or
don't
our
want our backs to hurt. We're
no,
busy. I don't have
right,
time for this. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. And the guilt, right? The
Yeah.
guilt and the I want my kids to have a normal life, whatever normal means. Now I know that is very variant, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but for me, that's why my back got to be so fragile
Mm.
that one fall led me to be paralyzed. And so my point is
Wow.
preventative, proactive action, right? Everything
Yes.
that I knew, but I did it in some aspects of my life, and I didn't do it where it was really mattering. And this is like a
Yes.
common tale for a lot of people, right? We know, but we sacrifice or suppress or deny. I did all of
Yes.
the in an effort to continue our life as is, because we resist acknowledgement that we need to acknowledge this pain. And that could be a mental thing, that could be an emotional thing. For me, it was physical. And so I fall off a horse because I used to ride horses. I go to the orthopedic surgeon, and he's like, "Wow, your back. This is prior to my second pregnancy. Your back is really bad." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can push through it. I'm tough. All these things." And I push through. Second pregnancy comes, push through. Fast forward to I'm 33. I'm teaching a yoga class, and I'm demoing a twist. And I knew I mean, it's clear as day. As I'm falling, like in the movie slow motion, I know in my brain I can't feel my legs. I mean, it was that automatic. I fall to the ground, people come running over, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, let's get you up." And I knew, and I just looked at them, and the weird thing is, like, I wasn't scared. I was cool and collected because I knew, like, my inner being knew, and I just looked at them and I said, "You don't understand. I can't feel my leg. You need to call an ambulance."
Oh, wow.
And
Wait, where was this before or after the fall on the horse?
after
Okay.
after
But
fall
yeah,
on the horse, and they
yeah.
say, "You really need to have this back surgery."
Okay.
And
So
I'm
you weren't paralyzed then?
No, 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 no,
Just your
no.
back was not just your back was just your back was shattered. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Um,
Got it.
I
And then you're
what
doing the yoga.
happened,
Please go ahead.
well, so what happened is between the fall from the horse and the yoga class is that I start without knowing, right? But I start to lose my reflexes on the left side of my body. This
Oh,
is a tale of how strong the mind is, right? And the human spirit is. I start to lose my reflexes on the left side of my body. So how do I know this? Well, I'm holding a glass and I can't hold it. Like I literally can't hold. I'm sitting, I remember perfectly at my son's preschool, watching them sing or something. And my mom and my husband are sitting next to me, and my leg is like moving uncontrollably. And they're like, "What's happening with your leg?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I can't control it." Um, and so this is a progression
yeah.
that continues. And I didn't know it at the time, but my back had completely disheveled upon itself. It was growing these tentacles that were pinching all these nerves. And I lost all of my reflexes on the left side of my body. That's when the yoga fall happens. And the doctors say, um, this this is not good. Like if this continues to progress, you're going to be not able to move ever. And my insurance wouldn't cover the surgery because they wanted me to do more pain management.
Oh my gosh.
um, and so that just goes to tell you, right, that it is so important to listen to your body, as inconvenient as it may be. I mean, my insurance flat out, 4 surgeons called and they were like, no, she needs to do more pain management. And they were like, she can't, like, she doesn't have time to do more pain management. My grandfather's good friend was a very well-known orthopedic surgeon that did surgery or orthopedic surgeries for bullfighters, like the
Oh,
men's.
wow. Yeah.
And so he had known me since I was a baby, and so I went to see him, and he said, I have this surgery that I do, and I feel like it can help you, but you have to move to Mexico because it's the process.
Wow.
So I had to, leave my children because I knew I wasn't able to care for them, and they had their schools here, and my husband, um, and just go take care of myself, and
Wow.
that is very hard,
That must
very
be
very
hard.
hard, very hard. So I did have that surgery. I It was very traumatic surgery, like 8-10 hour surgery. I don't know, I was asleep, but um, I really had to face death then, right? Because they tell you like this is a very dangerous surgery. It's in a part of your body where a lot of things could go wrong. They made me write a living will.
Oh, wow.
Uh, my husband and I were not in agreement with my medical choices if things went wrong, and my wishes. And so I had to name my dad, my next of kin. And, all of those confrontations with death and thinking about, what do I want for myself? Um, and are so personal and are so um, hard to even think about. Like I don't wish it on anyone. Yet I think in midlife there are things we should all think about, because all of us by midlife have something that needs caring for, right? Either a pet or a house or other family members or children. And when I often ask my friends, like, hey, do you have a will? Hey, do you have a next of kin in case you are in a car accident? They always kind of look at me like I'm, like cussing in their face. And I'm like, I know it's hard and it's heavy and it's deep and it's uncomfortable, but these are things that we really should think about to celebrate our life, right? To honor ourselves.
Yes.
And I go back to that because my choice was, I want to be as functional as I can. That those are my wishes, and I'm going to do everything I can to do that, because I know that I would not enjoy my life if I was in a wheelchair. That's not to say that I haven't met many people that are superheroes and embrace it and have the best attitude and have the best lives, but I just wasn't willing to settle for that.
Yeah. Yeah. You wanted to do what you could to at least try to get
Right,
your back healed. And it worked.
right.
Apparently it worked.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I'm stronger than ever. It also, I had always been very athletic, despite my pain, right? Despite my pain that I had for many years, I'd always been a very active person and a person that really enjoyed movement, all kinds of movement, from riding horses to yoga to dance. And so I had always taken that for granted. And I'd never really, even though I was a yoga teacher and I'd studied all these things, I hadn't applied it the way it should have been applied until these obstacles presented themselves, because you're forced to really feel yourself and look at yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like in our midlife, we should lean into our grief. We should lean into our pain. My oldest son, when he left home 2 years ago, I sat at this very desk where I'm doing my interview, and I just bawled, and I bawled and I bawled and I thought, he's he's a great human. He loves me. We have a great relationship. Like, what the heck is wrong with me? And then I realized that I was grieving, the loss of my son. And I would cry and I would smile and I would look at pictures and then I would cry and laugh. And it was this beautiful dance between celebration of what I had done, raising this beautiful man now, he's a
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
and like grief of like, I should have done this and I should have spent more time and it went by so fast. And I
Uh,
didn't love him enough. I didn't teach him enough. And I think those moments are the most beautiful moments we can have. And a lot of people don't allow themselves to have those moments.
yeah, I know a big part of your work is embracing the pain and learning what you can through the pain. It's
Yeah.
through the
And just,
pain. It's not
yeah.
bypassing the pain. It's through it. There's
Yeah.
no
You
other way, right?
know, because I tried it, believe me, for years. I tried ignoring the pain. Look where it got me. Like,
Right.
tried that method before. And, and, but that's the thing, even with people that I work with, and it's like, when we don't talk about it, when we don't want to feel it and honor it and grow from it and unlearn what we need to and course correct what we need to, it gets bigger. It
Yeah.
just gets bigger and it gets more in our face. And that's exactly what happened to me until it was like, and you can't move your legs anymore.
My
Like,
God.
and I've seen that with any sort of disease, even mental disease, right? Like it takes 8 years to get depression diagnosed because we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to ignore it. We want to ignore it. We want to suppress it. We want to pretend, oh, I must just feel low. And then that low goes on to 3 days and 4 days and then 5 years. And that's what we do. And I think for midlife, when your hormones are changing, it's really easy to get confused with yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting what you said about you, Oprah. There's a clip that I saw. She said, if you ignore the whisper, so the voice that was like, you should probably get that checked out in this case, or whatever that whisper it is, you'll get like a little, little tap, little nudge. And then next time it'll sort of escalate. And by the third time you ignore it, it'll be like a ton of bricks landing on your head. You don't get to ignore it. At some point it'll
No.
catch up with you.
Oh, absolutely. I think everything does. It too, I see it a lot in families where there's one of the children that's like manifesting all the symptoms of the dysfunction of the family. And they're like the problem child, the problem child, the problem child, until that problem child just like completely downward spirals and it forces the whole family to assess and show up and look and change things. Um, it's the same, when we don't deal with anything within ourselves or in our families, it's going to blow up.
It's going to
That's how
show.
energy works.
Um, how does your spiritual belief system, because we were talking a little bit before the mics went on, how did that help you navigate that time?
it, it was my anchor. So I love Danielle Laporte, and she says she's
Oh,
a
yeah.
spiritual nut because that's literally, so I grew up in a Catholic country. My dad's side of the family was super religious. My mom's side of the family, part of them were not. And I was always told that Catholic girls could not date Jewish boys. Like they won't marry, right? Jewish boys won't marry Catholic girls. But I always had a lot of Jewish friends. I was always called to Judaism. And so I did my first communion, all the Catholic things. But I would, I was 14, 15, and my dad and my grandma were like avid readers. And so I would just take their books. And I remember my dad one time, he always thought it was so funny because I was like reading like Wayne Dyer when I was 14 years old and like the Tao and the Tao Ching. And I was just really interested in those things. So I started studying a lot of spirituality, metaphysics. Like my grandfather was a chemist. He was a very serious man. In fact, my grandfather was a VP for DuPont. So they lived in San Diego.
Okay.
Um, and he was a very like scientific, like serious man. Um, but I was very like, close to him. And when I was a teenager, right around the time when my autoimmune stuff started, my grandparents moved to this town and away from Mexico City that has a pyramid, and it's one of the places where people do spiritual pilgrimages to. Like they dress in white and they go in the equinox, and it's one of those places in the world that's like aligned with other points, like Machu Picchu in Egypt,
What's
where
it
the
called? Sorry to
it's
interrupt you.
it's
Sorry.
so it is Tepoztlan, is the name of the town, Tepoztlan, and it's by Cuernavaca. And so it's a very like energetic calling. You climb up to the top of this pyramid. And I was taken there often. That's where my grandparents lived. And my grandparents introduced me to like crystals. And my grandfather gave me this book, which I gave to my son this year. And it's called Metaphysic 5 in 1. And I remember reading it and it just changed my life. You know, it explained to me that everything is energy and that if we look at everything from an energetic perspective, we understand, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. And my grandfather always said, like, you have this magic inside of you. And he was a chemist. So it makes sense, right, that
He could
understood.
embrace the spiritual, but he also had the science.
Yeah, because he saw it and he was like, this
Yeah.
is magic, you know?
Yeah. I
And
love that.
so I was introduced by this by my grandpa, and it was so cool. And I gave that book to my son earlier this year, and he sends me this text like a month ago, and he's like, "This is my about to be 20-year-old," and he goes, "Mom, thank you for introducing me to spirituality. I always thought you were like a little weird, kooky mom." He goes, but now it's like become so important in my life now that I'm alone. And I was just like, oh,
Really
like
beautiful. Full
full
circle.
circle, right? Because I gave him the exact book that my grandpa gave me, like the exact
Totally.
copy.
Wow.
Anyway, so I've seen throughout my life these like magical moments. So then this is where the story gets interesting. So then I fall in love with a man, and he says to me, there's one thing really for us to be together, and I want to be with you. And that's that I'm Jewish. And that's really important to Jewish people because there's not that many of us,
There's like a
and we're
whole TV show now
we're
with, did you see the
persecuted.
TV
And
show? Did you see
no,
the
I
TV?
haven't seen it. No,
It's
I haven't.
with Kristen Bell and she's dating a rabbi.
No.
It's
Oh
out
yes,
now.
yes, yes, yes.
What's it
We just
called?
watched it. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know, but we just watched it, and that's how it is, right? Like
Okay,
it's
yeah. So yeah.
so so I converted to Judaism, and my grandfather comes to visit, and he says, "You know, you're not Jewish, right?" Last year, um, we went, so right when the war erupted, I had already booked this trip to Morocco, and we prayed, we thought about it, we said, you know what, this is a great opportunity for our children to see that Muslim people are kind and wonderful, and we can all get along, and let's go. So we went, and we're driving along. We have this tour guide, and I said to him, "Hey, I saw online that there's this synagogue here. That's one of the oldest synagogues in Africa, and I'd like to go see it." And he goes, "Huh, I never heard of it, blah, blah, blah." So we go see it, and I walk in, and I'm like, I have been here before. And it was like one of those just like, it just, I was like, I know this place. I've been here. Well, my mom's side of the family came from Spain. And when I got married to my husband, his uncle did this genealogical tree as our wedding gift, like this big tree for us. And he said to me, he goes, your grandfather, the same man that was like, you're not Jewish. He said, your grandfather and your grandfather's side of the family, they have a Jewish name that comes from Spain. And I said, I didn't know that. So my mom starts investigating. Um, Her grandparents have already died, all this stuff. But my mom says to me, I remember when I was young, my grandma and her sister would sit at the kitchen table and do this weird stuff. And they always told me it was Kabbalah. And I was like, Mom, that's Jewish. Like, that's the spiritual side of Judaism. And she's like, oh my gosh, she keeps looking into it. So I'm in Morocco and I'm like, oh my God, I've been here. So I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, like, I know that I've been here. And I send my mom pictures, and she was like, That is so weird. That place is so familiar. Long story short, later on this year, after we were in Morocco, my mom has to go clean out some things at my grandpa's house and finds his birth certificate that says Jewish. And it turns out his family had gone from Spain to Morocco, escaping persecution, and from Morocco to Mexico. And they were Jews in hiding in Mexico.
Amazing. So, but
Yeah.
had he been in that church? I mean, in that synagogue?
So that was the synagogue where they brought the people that were in hiding from Spain. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it just,
So it wasn't necessarily past life. It was maybe energetically picking up on your
yeah,
grandfather's path.
like I recognized it. Yeah. And so when you ask me about spirituality, I'm like, yes, I'm a very strong spiritual believer. I wouldn't call myself religious. I would call myself a believer that we all come from an energy that is love, and that we have to embrace the fact that everything happens for a reason. Like everything in our lives, the ugly, the pain we got to lean into, the good stuff, the grief, like it all has a purpose and it's all energy, right? It's all us just like transforming energy, whether it's in our bodies or in our spiritual life or within our spiritual selves. And um my husband is really scientific. He's a researcher. He's a scientist, like very process stoic, and
Like your
one,
grandpa.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And he always says to me, and he's not romantic, right? But he always says to me, I'm so glad that we found each other again in this life. And I think
Oh,
it's so telling, right? Of like spirits come together how they need to come together.
yeah. Yeah. Whether for healing or for the lifetime
Growth,
or growth.
I think
Yes. Growing
sometimes
together.
spirits just our path is to like the people that you don't like or that irritate you, you need them.
Right. They're
'Cause,
teachers.
yeah, they're teachers within you. And so I think spirituality is a forgotten part of us. Especially in the Western cultures, I don't think that we talk about it enough. I don't think that it's thought about enough. And I think it's one of the things that could really help us remember that like we are all the same.
Yes.
When we were in Morocco, I remember, feeling like there were so many elements of humanity missing and how everything is presented to us, because nobody cared who we were. They were kind, they were loving, they were
Of course.
welcoming, they
Yeah.
were curious. And
Yeah.
I was just as curious about them that they were about me. And our guide, when we left, cried and he said, I cannot tell you how much it meant to us for you to like want to know about us and want to understand and want to be a part of. And we don't see that approach with anything, right? With
Yeah.
politics, with ourselves, within our
Yeah.
families, in our marriages. Like um, we need to understand that dualities are important in life.
I'm just curious, like in terms of like last couple of thoughts and questions for the women listening, like how can a woman use any pain she may be going through or still stuck in, old trauma that maybe keeps showing up? Like it could be the person who isn't being kind to her. It's like these life lessons that keep showing up and making her go, wait, is this about me? Like, is there something I need to change? But she's stuck in like seeing the pain and feeling it, but not sure how to move
Yeah,
move
so I
through.
think one of the biggest self-inflictions of pain that we make is trying to change ourselves. And going back to what we were talking about, anti-aging is the biggest, most financially growing industry in the
Yeah.
world. And that is part of the messaging that we're being sent on a daily basis is, Tatiana, you're 45, you should get Botox so that you look good. Tatiana, you should be doing this and this and this and this and this and this and this, or you're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not talented enough. You're not accomplished enough. You're not a good mom. You're not a good wife. You're going to get fat. You know, and it's this never ending barrage of how we should be behaving in order to be good enough for the world. But we do the same thing internally to ourselves, right? So,
Yeah.
pain, whatever pain it is, it's not part of your to-do list to fix it or change it. It's part of your responsibility to yourself and your self-care to say, why does this keep showing up for me? What is it that this pain is trying to gift me? You know, for me, it gifted me my real sense of trusting my intuition and my real sense of trusting that no matter what the doctor said to me, because I had doubted it when I was pregnant with my second son. I was 8 months pregnant and I went to get my, my weekly checkup that you get at that point. And they
Yeah.
said, you have to go to the emergency room. And I said, why? And they said, something's wrong with the baby. And they checked me and my husband into the hospital, told me my son had Down syndrome. It was too late to do an amnio and that he was a preemie, made me get the special car seat and all this special stuff because he was going to be too small. And they put us in this room ready to rush him to the children's hospital to for the neonatal unit. And he was born and he was fine. And I remember my husband telling me the whole time, like, they're wrong, they're wrong. And I would cry and say, how could they be wrong? This is what they're telling us. We just need to come to terms with it. And for me, my pain was my gift to say, your inner voice, your inner knowing, your connection to source and to your God and to the universe. And that is stronger than what anybody could tell you. And for me, my pain of losing my sister was, hey, when your time is over on this earth, you get to be free. Don't be scared of death. And the pain of losing somebody you love is one of the hardest pains to get over. And we should lean into grief and we should feel it and we should learn from it and we should leave those seeds planted inside of us that person left us and continue to put them out into the world. But that's the same with any pain, right? It plants seeds in you that something within you needs to course correct or release or embrace. Sometimes pain is, I watched the show yesterday about this woman that had 7 nose surgeries and she hated her nose and all of the money she made went to trying to fix her nose. And I thought, what a painful way to live physically and emotionally, so that pain is about like, just love yourself. My teeth are crooked. I've had buck teeth since I was young. My brothers made fun of me and I've learned to just go, not fun to look at them, but it's what I have. And instead of trying to change and fix myself, I'm not going to put myself through more pain. I've had braces twice to try and fix them. Instead, I'm just going to say, this is part of what makes me me and beautiful and unique. And I'm going to embrace it. And all of our pain makes us who we are, right? In its ugliness and its beauty. But I think compassion is what a lot of us are missing, and grace towards ourselves and towards what we can and can't do on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Do you have any practices though, either somatic or journaling? Like what do you turn to? Or recommend?
So I have a vibration board that I love that I go on every morning. I meditate every morning.
What is that? I've never heard of that. What's that?
So it's this board that kind of looks like a skateboard, but it's stable. And it vibrates and you get on it and you stretch. And it kind of shakes up your cells and massages your endocrine system and massages. It allows you to like massage your face. Not like literally, but it shakes. It helps. It helps with pain. It helps with inflammation. And so that gives me a lot of relief because I wake up really stiff because of my joints and my autoimmune stuff. I walk every day. Like if I don't walk, I get stiff. And I don't feel good emotionally. And I try to get vitamin D, natural vitamin D, every single day. So one of the things that I love that has really helped me is I set an intention for each day, not an actionable goal like do 100 things or accomplish this, but of how I want to feel, right? What that day, what am I looking for? And it's funny because one of my students said to me yesterday, so yesterday my word was peace, what I chose for my intention for the day, peace. And one of my students said, "Hey, professor, what does it take to be so chill?" And I said, "What do you mean chill?" He goes, "You're just so chill." And I thought, oh, that's my word, peace. Like he can sense it,
Interesting.
Yeah. So I
Energy
that's one of
again.
my favorite practices. Yeah.
That's
And then
great.
of course, every morning I dance. That's my workout. I do like Tracy Anderson, if anybody's heard of her. She's
Yeah. I didn't think she did dance though. I thought she was like hardcore, like hit.
so she no, it's a mix of dance, Pilates, and yoga.
Oh,
But I've
nice.
been doing Tracy for 10 years.
You have nice toned arms. Would you say
Thank
that's
you.
part of it? Is it from that, you think?
Yeah, and then genetics, right? Less
Yes.
like
Yes.
part of pain is some women have to like kill themselves in the gym to get toned arms, and then other women just have them.
It's true.
I learned a long time ago from Deepak Chopra when I studied holistic medicine that the best thing you can do when you're in pain is to help somebody else.
That's beautiful. So took away help others and movement, because all the things you talked about, the vibration, the dance,
Mhm.
and the walking, that's
Mhm.
moving your body to let
Mhm.
things, right? Is that a big piece? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I have found that energetically, when I don't move, I feel depressed and grumpy and not in control of myself, like thoughts, emotions, and physical body. So, yes, movement is a key piece of feeling good in my body.
Yeah. And something that the women listening can try. Anything I didn't ask you today that you want to leave them that the women listening with?
I don't know. Let's see. Be honest. Be honest with yourself because I think it's really hard. All of us know the things that we desire, but it's really hard to be honest about it because, again, it's probably inconvenient for your life. It's probably inconvenient for your loved ones, and it's going to be uncomfortable for you. But if you're honest with yourself, you can have clarity. And when you have clarity, you can be in alignment with yourself. And that's when we have that, what we think is happiness, but really, I think is peace.
Yeah, peace and purpose, because I think purpose also helps gives us peace because we feel
Yeah.
like you use the word alignment. It gets us in alignment. And I really loved connecting with you, hearing your
Thank you.
story and the wisdom that you shared today. Where should I direct the women listening to? Your website, any places for them to connect?
Sure. My company name is RX for Life. The easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn, Tatiana Miller, or you can look for my radio show, which is called How to Be a Human. And because I worked in neurology, I've seen the effects of social media and things like that. So, like, my kids didn't even have a TV in the house until they were 13. Like, my older son was 13. So, my website is mentalhealthsolutionsonline.com.
Perfect. Everything will be on your show notes, all the links there if you want to connect with Tatiana, and definitely share this interview with a friend. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I really
Thank
loved
you.
connecting with you. It's been such fun.
Thank you so much. You too. It's great to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tatiana. Hey, friend, I have one request before we sign off today. If you've gained any value from any of the interviews that you've tuned into, would you take just 1 minute and leave a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts? It's actually how more women can find the show, and I want to continue growing a community of women who are loving themselves and living full on. So thank you for all of your support, and I look forward to being back with you next week. Bye for now.
This podcast is presented for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to be a substitute for medical, mental health, or other professional advice. Seek out your trusted healthcare provider or other qualified professional for all matters dealing with your health and well-being. Any opinions or information provided by a guest are their own and not those of Michelle Lamoureux or the company.